My name is Ashley,
And my name is Lucia, and welcome to the 76 Cents podcast, where we'll be discussing anything and everything.
and in this week's episode, we are specifically going to be discussing the Asian American experience, more specifically the East Asian American experience, because that's what we can kind of talk about because we are East Asian.
Yep.
So, yeah, I guess we can kind of
Mm.
start with just explaining like what ethnicities we are.
Mm-hmm.
So, I am half white and half Chinese. So, my mom is Chinese and my dad is white. My mom actually lived in Vietnam with her family, and then they came to America when she was about 8 years old. So, that's me.
And my parents are both Chinese, and they came here in their mid 20s, I would say. So I was born here and I was raised here, but I am fully Chinese. So that is a little bit about us. But I just wanted to say we wanted to talk about this today because, as you all know, on Wednesday we had inauguration for a new president. Shout out Joe Biden. Even though I would have preferred Bernie, but that's a story for another day.
We still did
Um,
it, Joe. We did it,
yeah, we
Joe.
did it, Joe. Yeah. So since Kamala Harris is now the first vice president who is also a Black woman, and South Asian. So we got some representation kind of in politics there. But yeah, it's just kind of a significant moment. And I don't know. I mean, it'll mean a lot to people who may see themselves trying to run for these positions and maybe are not usually recognized or, represented at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Kamala. We love you,
Yeah.
kind of. I mean, I have some reservations, but that topic
Yeah.
another
Me
time.
too.
But the
It's fine.
representation is important. So yeah, because I feel like we don't have a lot of representation of, first of all, women. Second of all, Black women. Third,
Mm-hmm.
South Asian women, like Asian women in general. So like
Exactly.
we're covering a lot of
It
bases
is a
here.
milestone. Yeah, it's definitely a milestone. And I just hope it inspires more people to run who are not usually running. Like white men, we've seen it all. So
Yeah,
please.
like if you look up any part of our history, there is a white man there, and I'm
Yep.
tired of it.
So
I mean, no offense to white men, but it's time to switch it up.
yeah, it's time, guys. It's time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I I kind of wanted for us to talk a little bit about our experiences growing up as Asian Americans. And yes, like Ashley said, specifically East Asian Americans, because I mean, Asia is huge, first of all. And also, like, all the different regions are affected by different types of oppression and different struggles. So we can't really speak to those. But yeah, do you want to go ahead and share?
Yeah. So I guess just like in general, my experience is kind of like interesting. So I grew up in California until I was 6 years old, and then we moved to South Carolina. So that in itself was a very interesting change for me because in California there's a much more prevalent Asian population. So I grew up like around a ton of Asian people, like my family and people in school were Asian. Like my best friend in kindergarten was Asian, and I don't know. It was just very different when I moved to the South when I was 6. So here, there is not a prevalent Asian population. It's mostly white and Black population. And yeah, so it was just interesting growing up because I didn't have anyone really to look up to that looked like me, and there wasn't anyone to look up to in the media that looked like me either. And so it was just kind of difficult going into that transition. I don't think like at such a young age I was really like focused on that so much, but I remember there was like a certain point where I was like, why am I not just like fully white? Like why? And like I was ashamed of being half Asian, which is really sad because I don't know, I just felt like I didn't fit in and people bullied me for being Asian. Like I wasn't like bullied badly, but like people would make comments about being Asian, and I was smart, and so they'd be like, "Oh, you're smart because you're Asian, haha, you're a nerd." I remember in seventh grade, this girl, I was running for student government in middle school, and so we had to get like these petitions signed. We had to have a certain amount of signatures to be in the student government. So I was trying to get my friends to sign my petition, and this girl was telling people not to sign mine. She was like, "Don't sign that, Asian girls," and like because I was Asian, like she was pointing that out, and I was like, "Why? Why is this an issue
So
for you?"
rude.
Like I got into the student government, so it was fine. But I was like, just things like that, like would happen a lot because I feel like people weren't. They just there weren't Asian people around, so they didn't know how to act. But yeah, so that's like a little bit about my experience growing up. Um, what about you?
Yeah, so I think ours have similarities, but mine's probably a lot different. Yeah, I would say so. Um, so unlike you, I was born and raised in the South, North Carolina specifically. So I like my experience with seeing other Asians around me was really only like when I went to Chinese school, which is like I went there like on the weekends and it was literally like for Chinese kids to learn Chinese because we were all like children of immigrants and they didn't want us to lose our language, which I mean, I respect it. And I kind of wish that I had paid more attention because now I'm like losing the language, but I'm like, yeah, nothing I can really do about that now. I'll just like have to practice if I want to keep it up.
Yeah,
But
at least you're better than me though. I don't know anything. So
no, it's okay. Yeah, I can like understand Chinese a little bit and I can speak it. So I think it's better than nothing. Um, but I think growing up, I always went to like all white schools basically because that's all that there was in my area. And in my classes, there's only usually maybe one to three other Asian kids. And that would be like the entire for my entire like kindergarten through I would say fifth grade. So I never saw any other Asians besides the ones that were in my class. So I didn't really um participate in like my own culture that much since I wasn't really staying with my family all the time. Like you don't really realize it, but you spend so much of your life at school that like whatever you pick up there, you kind of just like internalize it. And I don't think I was ever really bullied. It was just like weird to not see someone that looked like me. But I do remember at one time, we were having like this around the world thing in my class. Maybe it was like fifth grade. And my mom, I think I asked her to make like some food because I think all the parents were bringing in like different cultures and stuff. We brought in some, I think it was like tofu. And then we were trying to teach the kids how to use the chopsticks. And then these kids were just they were like, I'm just gonna stab it. Like there's just no respect. But like honestly, since they were kids, I can kind of understand. Like they just didn't know what's going on. And they probably did find it hard to use the chopsticks at that point. But I just like remember being taken back and like, oh, like that was like one of the times when I realized like I'm Chinese and like these people are not Chinese. But yeah, and then another time, okay, this is like kind of scary, but it is like etched into my memory because of that. Um, one time we were driving on the highway and I think I was sitting in the front seat, so I must have been in middle school or something. And all of a sudden, this like white, old white man in the car next to us on the right lane, he opened his door like in the middle of the highway and just started yelling at us. And I was like, what is going on? Like, we didn't say
oh,
anything to you. We were not in your lane. Like,
like unprovoked.
yeah, like we did not do anything to make this man mad. He was opening the door, he was yelling, and I was like, Dad, like what's going on? Because like I'd never experienced anything like that. And he was like just ignore him, like don't make eye contact, just stare ahead. And I think looking back, like either he was probably calling us a slur or like just screaming at us. Like I don't know what was going on. Maybe he thought we were like, I don't know, like it was just so weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really strange.
Yeah. And like we don't like to this day I don't know what he was saying, but it just seemed like it might have been racially motivated because I mean he
Yeah,
wasn't doing it to anyone else on the highway. So yeah.
that's really weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to what you were saying about like the like bringing the tofu to class though, I remember in elementary school, like sometimes I'd pack my lunch and oh my gosh, I remember there was this one time. Well, first of all, my mom would pack chrysanthemum tea in my lunchbox all the time because like it was so good.
We love chrysanthemum tea. Oh yes.
Yes, it was so good. But none of the other like white kids knew what that was, obviously, because we got it from like the Asian supermarket. And so they're like, "What is that? It's weird." And then like I would let them try it, and they'd be like, "This is weird." And like it's probably first of all because they're kids and like kids don't like anything like new like that, I guess. But they're also being really mean about it. I was like, calm down. And I specifically remember one time she packed an applesauce in my lunchbox and gave me like an Asian soup spoon to like eat it with. And because it wasn't like a normal spoon, like a plastic spoon, um, that the white people use, all these kids literally made fun of me. They were like, haha, like, why do you have an Asian spoon? Like, what to eat your applesauce? Like, and they were just so mean about it for no reason. And I remember I came home that day and I was like crying. I was like,
So
Mom,
sad.
like they made fun of me for this spoon. Like, don't give me a spoon like that next time. And like I could tell that she felt so bad. And I was like, first of all, not only did these kids make me feel bad, they made my mom feel bad for like making like for just giving me a spoon. Like it was so
Yeah.
stupid.
Kids
But
are
like
ruthless. What the heck?
but also like I could tell it made her like feel ashamed of like who she was. I was like, that's don't come for my mom like that.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously.
but it made
Like
me
it's
like
one thing to attack
realize
me, but like my mom. Yeah, like also like that spoon probably was way easier to use. The soup spoons are the way to go. So
uh, they can hold so much more. Let me tell you, the utensils, the the
mm,
Chinese utensils be elite. But these
yeah,
white people just don't get it. They just don't.
exactly.
But yeah, no, but that was like an experience that like I really remember just because like I don't know, it was like you could feel the shame of like being Asian in a white society. And it's so sad that like it came to that over a spoon, which is so dumb. But it just goes to show like how much people's words and like their disrespect towards other people's cultures like affects someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even if you're a kid, like and maybe you're just ignorant, maybe your parents are ignorant so they don't really know and you just pick up on that, but like I don't know, I feel like a lot of people should just do some reflecting.
Yeah,
I've like definitely been called like a chink. Like people have
for
like
sure.
made fun of my eyes. Like my eyes aren't even small, first of all, so I don't understand. But like the Chinese Japanese eye thing, oh my god, that was like such a big thing in elementary school. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about,
Oh my gosh.
it's like they would like Chinese, Japanese, Americanese, okay, and then they would like push your eyes up and then like pull them down. It was just so
It'd
many
be like,
problems with that.
my mom is Chinese, my dad is Japanese. Now look at me.
It's like
Like
okay,
that's
first of
so
all,
wrong.
yeah, kids are ruthless, but also like at some like at what point is it learned and like when you like actually realize, then hopefully you'll change. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think after elementary school, it did get a lot better because I went to a magnet school for middle and high school, and there was a lot more Asians there because they all lived in like the same place, but I guess I didn't live there, so I don't like they all knew each other, which was weird. But at least then I felt like I had more of a community, and I mean, some of those people like that I met in middle and high school are still some of my best friends, and now at college, I'm also like involved in like some of the Asian American clubs and stuff, just like to keep in contact with my culture. I have a lot of Asian American friends, I would say, probably more than you, because I feel like you live in more of a predominantly white area. But yeah, I'm just glad that my appreciation for my own heritage has increased as I've gotten older.
Yeah, I don't have like the same experience because I never really have like I never had like an Asian community to be a part of here because there just isn't one, even at
Yeah.
college. Like, I mean, there are more Asian people at college, but there aren't a lot. I'm gonna be honest, but my freshman year of college, one of my friends that I met, his name was Bill. He was Asian. He was like, "Hey, my friends are making this like Asian American sorority. Like, you should join." And then I didn't join because I forgot to go to the meeting, which is
Whoops.
that's on me. But I kind of regret not doing that because I don't know. It's just hard to like be around a ton of people that you can't really relate to on the same level, or they don't really have an understanding of like where you're coming from for certain things. And for the most part, it's not a problem. Like, of course, like me being friends with white people is like not a problem, but it's just difficult like when there's no one there to like relate to about your own like personal issues that involve race. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think your identity is different because you're biracial. Like,
yeah,
there's just the ways that you like connect to the different communities. Yeah.
yeah. Also, speaking on that, I feel like being biracial is just like it's so annoying because like the white people are like, but you're not white, you're Asian. But then the Asian people are like, you're not Asian, you're white. And I'm like,
Yeah, it
I
gives you
don't
kind of an
fit in.
identity crisis.
Like I
Yeah.
don't fit in either group. So then I consider myself a Wasian. This is well known amongst my friends that we love the Wasians. But anyways,
Yeah.
every time I have to check a box for race, I get some anxiety. Like if there's first of all, if they only let you check one box on the form, what the heck? Like I they're like, I pick the one that you identify most with. I'm like, I'm literally half and half. Like,
Yeah,
what
like
do you
how are you supposed to
mean?
choose because both of them are part of you. Like there's not a way to
Exactly.
choose.
Exactly. And it's like, it's kind of terrible because it makes you pick one part of yourself over the other that you want to acknowledge more. And that's
Mhm.
so wrong. And whenever I had just had to go get a new driver's license and I had to fill that out on the form, like it said race, and I had to go up to the guy and ask him, I was like, I don't know what to put for this. Like, am I allowed to put more than one or whatever? He just said, just write multi, like the
Uh,
word multi.
what?
I'm like, they don't even know what I am. Like, I could be half black, half Hispanic, half white, half Asian. Like, they don't know.
Yeah.
Like, they don't care. They're just like
Yeah.
multi. So that's what's on my driver's license. And that's
Wow. That's kind of
terrible.
that is so weird. Yeah. I guess I never really thought about that because I mean, obviously I don't experience it, but yeah, just like you can't even like how do you even describe yourself? I don't know. People just see you as
Yeah.
like the outsider. Yeah. Very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really annoying.
Mhm.
Mm,
I can tell.
I could go
Yeah,
off on
maybe
that
we'll
topic.
talk about that. Maybe we can talk about that in another episode. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot to say about it.
There's a lot to
Yeah.
unpack with that, the whole biracial,
Yeah.
multiracial issue. But let's get back to Asian American
Yeah.
issues.
I wanted to bring up the model minority myth and just like Asian racism, anti-Asian racism in general, but before we start, I would just like to emphasize something. I wrote this down yesterday because it was just blowing through my mind and I was like, we have to say this because like it's a thing that a lot of people brush over. But a lot of the times when I see other fellow Asians talk about racism against Asian people, they always want to say like, "Well, you guys are talking about Black Lives Matter, so why aren't we talking about this?" Or you guys always seem to care more about blah blah blah, but you guys don't care about us. And like, okay, first of all, it's okay to be upset that like maybe your issues aren't being talked about or just people are not aware of them, but we don't need to be like comparing um the racism that we experience with other people. Like Black people have been systematically oppressed in this country, and like the racism that they experience is not going to be the same as something that I experience, but we don't need to like bring it up when we're talking about racism against Asian people, because that
Yeah.
just kind of shows that you're not really respecting their struggle, and you feel like if they talk about racism that they experience, that's going to somehow like block you from talking about your own experiences. Yeah, so like
Yeah.
just don't say that. If you want to talk about anti-Asian racism, just do that, and don't bring up anti-Black racism. Don't bring up anti-Native, anti-Indigenous racism. Like, just talk about you. Like, we know that you all have different struggles, and that's okay. We don't need to compare them.
Yeah. And like kind of going off of that, like if you're talking about racism in general, of course, like it's important to acknowledge like different forms of racism, but I think people really just need to stop grouping minorities in one big group of minority. Like we don't experience the same problems. Like Asian people aren't targeted by the police. Like
Yes,
we don't
exactly.
experience that. That's why the Black Lives Matter movement is Black Lives Matter. Like it's not minority lives matter because Black people are being targeted by police brutality.
Exactly,
So that's
exactly.
like a whole separate issue than what we experience. And when you're speaking about um racism against Asians, it's obviously not going to be the same as racism against like natives or Black people because the history is not the same. Like it's
Yeah,
completely different. So we're not here to talk about like racism against Black people because we can't speak to that because we're not Black.
exactly,
So
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. If you guys want to hear about that, I would recommend my friend's podcast. It's called Black Girls Chit Chat. It's
Shout
by
out.
two Black girls. They actually inspired me to like suggest making a podcast to Ashley. But like I found their podcast very like interesting, and they're literally Black, so like obviously they can talk about it. But we're not
Yeah.
gonna do that because we don't have the experience and we're not Black. So
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about it. Like it's important to bring up the conversation, but not
right.
for us to act as if we know what they go through.
Exactly. I'm not gonna speak over them. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yep. All
But
right. But yeah, I wanted to get into the model minority myth. So Ashley, would you like to define what that is?
I don't have like a good definition ready,
What
but
do you
I
think it is?
guess just like overall, just the model minority myth is kind of like this idea that Asian people or Asian American people are the model minority, meaning that they are like more civil and like they're the type of minority like other races should aspire to be like. So that's kind of how I think of it. How would you define it?
Yeah, I think similarly, like people will be like, well, Asians are like the 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 race that you should aspire to be after white. Like they'll like make like this false hierarchy of races that you wanna be like, or like that you want to attain to. But yeah, it's very there's just a lot of issues with it. First of all, there's no reason for us to be making a hierarchy because that's just already racist. We don't even need to go into that, but like
Yeah, no, the
yeah,
entire like pyramid scheme that they're trying to set up, like that no, that's
exactly.
entirely racist
Yeah.
and needs to be thrown out. Like the whole idea that's white supremacy. That's giving off
Yeah,
some white
exactly.
supremacy vibes with the model minority myth, and like I'm really not here for it. So
Yeah.
yikes.
Yeah, like the whole thing developed because like since well, a lot of Asians were excluded from immigrating here in the first place. So like the only ones who were allowed to come, it was usually because of university or like work. So then because of the quotas that were set, like the only people from Asia who were immigrating here were like very well educated, very well off, or if they weren't, like they were just like, like you said, civil and like obeying, like humble, whatever, like they listen to everything that the official would say, blah blah blah. But then like that just kind of became a stereotype, like, and now people think that all Asians are just like I don't know, these like really hardworking people. Like obviously all people can be hardworking, but just like it's just pushed onto it's just pushed onto Asians as a whole.
Yeah, and I feel like it also creates a problem for like Asian American youth because then they have these expectations that like they're thought to stereotypically like live up to, and if they don't, then they're like not worthy of being Asian. Like that doesn't make sense to me. Like for example, if there is like a dumb Asian kid and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, I thought you're supposed to be smart, you're Asian. Like that is so rude. Like you
Yeah.
shouldn't have these expectations of someone's intelligence based on their race, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all, like that just puts so much pressure on Asian American youth to live up to these expectations like that are just crazy sometimes because not everyone is like a genius, but it makes it hard to live
Yeah.
up to.
And it and I think even my parents were saying like it's kind of a thing in like college admissions too. Like they'll see that you're
Mhm.
Asian and they'll be like, well, you have to like achieve more and be greater than the others because you're Asian, which is just like at that point you're just discrediting all that I've already done.
Yeah.
And what if like your life has been really, really hard and like you don't have much to write on there, but like obviously you still deserve to get an education if that's what you really want. So yeah, it just doesn't allow like people who are hardworking, maybe they just are because that's how who they are, but they'll
Yeah.
just be reduced to being an Asian. So like yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
I
annoying.
definitely relate to that though because like I don't know. I mean, I know I'm smart, not to like to my own horn, but
You are smart. You are smart.
but like all my friends, like I was valedictorian at my high school, and all my friends were like, "Oh, it's because she's Asian. Like you're just you're already smart." Like, and I'm like, so it's not because I put in the work that y'all put in. It's just because I'm Asian that I got here, which is really aggravating because it's like you said, it's discrediting all the work that I put in to getting that spot. And then they're just like, well, you're Asian, so like, duh. What? That makes no
Yeah.
sense. Like, I worked just as hard as y'all to get here. Like, maybe I had some sort of advantage, like genetically, because I was like, just like, I don't know, like, I feel like different people just have different forms of learning and different levels of
Yeah. But it's not because
intelligence.
you're Asian. Like it could be
Yes.
something totally different. Yeah.
Yeah, like even siblings are like there could be like a really smart like sibling and a really dumb sibling, and they got pretty similar genetics,
Yeah.
but just like they're prone to like having different learning styles and things like that that like affect that. So I don't understand how people are just like, it, you're Asian, you're supposed to be smart. That doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Another thing is like I feel like maybe this I mean, I think this is might just be my experience, but in the Asian cultures, like Eastern cultures, like it definitely is an emphasis on like working hard and everything. So that could maybe contribute to the model minority myth. But like the problem is like all of these people who have immigrated here usually because they have like the opportunities and the resources to do so. And there's still a lot of Asian Americans here who maybe are not doing so well. Like you can look at the statistics and usually Asians will rank second in white people like in like education, wealth, etc. But it's but then like there's still obviously going to be that group of Asian Americans who are not in the app like above average. So you can't just say like you can't just put them all together and generalize like, oh, all of you guys are doing well, so like nothing's gonna like you guys are fine. Like I wish everyone could be like you, like blah blah blah. It's just yeah, it's just annoying.
Yeah. And I also feel like it kind of is belittling to the racism that we do experience because like going back to like comparing the different like races, like they're like, well, you don't have it as bad as black people, and we're like, we get that, but like that, like we're not trying to say that. Like we're not
Yeah,
saying
exactly.
that we have it worse than black people. Like I personally know I do not. But
Exactly.
like that doesn't mean that we don't also experience racism. So that's a
Yeah,
whole nother issue.
it's a different
Like
form.
just because like we are supposedly higher up or the model minority doesn't mean that like we don't go through racism.
Yeah. Speaking
But
of
yeah.
racism, um, you know, with COVID and everything,
Mm,
I've just been seeing all these people talk about the China virus. And let me just say something. I am literally Chinese and I have not contracted COVID this whole time.
same.
And also, like, it's like worldwide by now, so I don't know why people are still calling it that. And I people will argue like, oh, but you guys like call it the Spanish flu, but like that was also like a century ago. So
That was like multiple centuries ago that the
yeah,
Spanish flu started, and that I'm pretty sure they just kept the name from like forever ago.
yeah. And like this is the 21st century. I don't know like what timeline you guys are living in, but um it is it is racist to say that a Chinese person or an East Asian person, because I know you guys can't tell the difference, but it is racist to say that since they exist, they're gonna have it or like they're gonna give it to you.
Yeah,
Because first of all, that's just not how viruses work. Second of all, it's just racist. Period. End of sentence.
yeah. I was with a friend, and we were like out somewhere before like the whole quarantine shut down, and but like the coronavirus was like starting to spread like around the world, but like it wasn't. We didn't think it was that bad in the U.S. yet, so
Yeah,
we
we
were
didn't
out
know.
somewhere and we were like in line behind this Asian American family, and she said to me, she was like, let's like not go near them because they're like they probably have coronavirus. And I was like, excuse me? And I was like, that was racist. And she was like, no, that was not racist. Like if the virus came from China, like they're probably here from China. And I could hear this family speaking in front of me and they had American accents. So I was like, they are American. Like you can't
They're from
assume,
here.
first of all, that everyone who looks Chinese or Asian at all is foreign. Like you can't just assume that. And also, you can't assume that they have a disease because of the way that they look. And I was like, can you imagine if someone like assumed that about me? Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
hello?
Like she basically did, but she wouldn't say that because you know her.
Yeah. Yeah, she was like, I wouldn't have said that about you. Like, I'm not talking about you. I'm like, but if you didn't know me, that's what you would
Exactly.
have assumed. So, like, therefore, that was racist because you're assuming something about someone based on their race, which is
Yeah.
bad. But
Yeah.
I don't know, that just kind of opened my eyes to like just how much of a problem like calling it the China virus is because like the people around me are literally affected by it. And even like some of my family members on
Mm-hmm.
my like the white side of my family, they're like, oh yeah, the China virus and like blah blah. I'm
Uh,
like, y'all, y'all know I'm Chinese, right? Like, you can't say that. But I don't know. I think it's just important to like inform the people around you, not to refer to it as the China virus, because that's just making, I mean, it did originate from China, but that doesn't mean that Chinese people or Asian American people like are more susceptible to it. That doesn't make sense.
yeah. Exactly. Like if you're gonna describe it, you can say that it came from China because that is true. But like you cannot say that every Chinese person, every East Asian American person, every East Asian person in general is gonna have it because that's just not how it works.
Yeah, or like have some like fear about
Yeah.
going around Asian people because that's just
Yeah, like I
not
was reading those tweets
realistic.
that were saying like people were not going to Chinese restaurants or like taking
Yes.
like getting delivery because of the freaking virus. And I was like, well, first of all, that's rude.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's like a huge impact that it had on Asians in America because
Yeah.
people were scared to go to their businesses and that like ruined them
Yeah, like a
economically.
lot of the
That's
times they're
terrible.
local businesses, local like small shops. They're
Yeah.
just trying to make a living. And I know you guys like to say that you hate capitalism, but let's support our small businesses because they actually are not like stealing your money, like they
Yeah.
actually
And
So
also, like, are you more susceptible to getting coronavirus in a small Asian establishment compared to an Olive Garden where there's probably Trump supporters who don't want to wear masks? Like, I'm sorry,
exactly,
but just like the likelihood, I feel like
exactly.
it's less.
Like I promise you, it'll be clean, it'll be safe. Like, just buy your takeout, like please.
Yeah, like
You
just take
guys
it
are
to
worked
go.
up over nothing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Anyways,
I feel like I just haven't thought about that in so long since like we were all actually in shutdown when like oh my gosh, when the businesses were just like literally targeted for like
yeah,
failure
for
because
no reason. Yeah,
yeah, simply
yeah.
because they're Asian. Like that's so ridiculous.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess we can kind of move on to kind of like Asian American representation or just
Hmm.
Asian representation in general because
Yeah, let's make it a little bit more positive.
yeah. Well, I mean, not necessarily positive because
We there's a lot of issues, but let's
we
just
have a
yeah,
lot of
I think it's
representation
a good
problems.
time to shift. Yeah.
Yes, yes. But like, okay, so representation for Asians overall
It's
across the board, low, low.
quite
Like,
lacking. Yep.
yes. So politics, media, books, all of the above, music
All of the above.
industry, like there is not a lot of Asian representation. And I don't necessarily know why. Maybe because I mean, I can't really say why there's not, but we definitely need more. So,
Yeah. I think in the past, maybe because the population wasn't as great as like the other races, but also like that doesn't mean anything.
yeah, no. I
Yeah.
feel like the white people were just like, we don't want to pay attention to them.
Yeah. Or like they'll just put you as like a side character or just push
Mm,
you away. So
the
that's why.
stereotypical Asian side character that's played by a
Uh,
white person.
we'll
Let's
get
not,
into
okay,
that
we'll get
later.
into that. We'll get into that. But okay, going back to the stereotypical Asian character, I'm
Hmm.
watching Gilmore Girls right now. And let me tell you, Lane, she's Korean and she's the most stereotypical Asian character. And it's like every time I see an Asian character in a show or film, they have to do so much. They have to point out that they're Asian. They're like, you no, you couldn't tell by the way that they look. We have to tell you that she's smart. Her family is very strict and she can't listen to rock music. Like,
Every single
what?
stereotype. It's so bad. And it's like every single show, like they'll have a token Asian character, usually East Asian or South Asian, like Indian. And
Yeah.
then they'll be like, oh, this character is a nerd, or like this character speaks in an accent, or like this character is always studying, blah, 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 blah. Like, shut up. We're tired of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Like they have to make a point of making Asian people look like the foreigner, like they're out of place. Because
Hmm.
if they don't point that out, it's like abnormal for some reason. Like I can't think of a show or a movie that has an Asian character that they don't explicitly like point out their Asianness
Yeah,
at some
like
point.
a show where they're just Asian for the sake of being Asian and like they don't have to make a big deal of being Asian. Like I
Yeah.
literally cannot think of one.
Yeah. Like I just don't know if they exist.
I don't. I don't know.
Which is also like terrible because like all of these generic roles that don't have a specific race or anything, they're going to these white people. And Asian
Yeah.
people are just excluded because if it's not specifically labeled, oh, this is an Asian character, they're not likely to give it to an Asian actor, which makes zero sense because if
Exactly.
that character doesn't have a specific race labeled with that character, like why does it matter?
Yeah. Like it even like if it's a background character, it literally doesn't matter. So why are you guys still putting in white people? At least like sprinkle silent diversity. I'm
Yes.
begging you.
Like I don't even care at this point. Just put an Asian character in some role and don't point out that they're Asian. Just
Exactly.
have them
Actually, I was
say
watching
something
The
normal.
Mandalorian. I was watching The Mandalorian. They had some background Asian characters, and I was like, "Thank you." Like this
Okay,
is literally the bare minimum, but thank you.
yes, we
Uh,
appreciate. But
yeah.
yeah, I feel like we've been getting into like we've lately there's been a lot more focus on increasing Asian representation in the media. So like Crazy Rich Asians, big, that was huge,
Mm-hmm.
all Asian cast. Like
Love
so,
that movie.
it was a good movie.
Really
But
was.
like the fact that they have to go to the extent of making an all Asian movie, like in order
Mm-hmm.
to get in any Asian representation, like at all, that's
Yeah.
sad.
And
Like,
like still in that movie there was problems because they were portraying like the brown Asians as like these servants and stuff. So like that's a whole nother problem. But like yeah, it took so long and they can only get like the biggest names in the movie because otherwise like you guys wouldn't watch it. So
yeah,
yeah. A lot to unpack there. Yeah. I actually watched a few seasons of Fresh Off the Boat when it first came out, and it was kind of refreshing to see like an entirely East Asian family on television. But yeah, like as I said, there was just a lot of stereotypical things going on in that. And I mean, obviously, the focus of the show was being Asian American because it was based on Eddie Huang's life. But
yeah,
yeah, just the way they went about it, like it just became more of like more stereotypes, and I stopped watching it. But
yeah.
Constance Wu was good in it though. Like even though they
We
gave her an
love
accent
Constance.
because it was based on his mom, but like it's fine. Like it was like the way that she got famous. So
Yeah. And that was like his the way that his life was. So like
yeah,
I understand like why the show was that way because like it was like actually like based off of his life.
yeah,
So, but yeah, just overall, the problems with representation in the media are pretty terrible, and we need to fix that. We need to put more Asian people up there because everyone nowadays they're saying like representation is so important for our youth and blah blah, and it genuinely is. Like being
mm-hmm.
able to see people like you is so important. And I feel like people who have representation, specifically white people, and by the way, every time I say white people, I'm not trying to like talk down on white people. I'm just saying like white people are the most accepted race in our society. So
Yeah,
that's just who I'm comparing to. But um like white people have this representation that we don't have. So like they
yeah,
always see people of their race on
exactly.
screen, in books, like on TV, like anywhere. They're everywhere. And so the fact that we don't have representation, like I feel like white people don't understand the importance of that and like being able to
Yeah,
see people that look like you and they're like, oh well, like why is that so important? It's so important because like I said before, like I literally hated like part of myself for being part Asian, and
mm-hmm.
that's not something that you want like young people growing up in America to feel like. You don't want people to be ashamed of where they come from just because there's not other people around that look like them.
Yeah,
So that's my take on it.
yeah. Also, like whenever we say white people, like if you're offended, I think that is an issue that you need to work on because like we're not gonna like if you're not personally racist, then like you wouldn't have a problem with us saying it.
Yeah.
You know?
And also,
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna like I'm making generalizations about white people, and if you know that doesn't apply to you, like it doesn't apply to you, because obviously
Exactly.
not all white people are the same either. So
Yeah. Yeah. But I I wanted to talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender, the show. We love that show. Um,
not the
I
movie.
watched it for the first time when I was like 13. It's just because I didn't have cable growing up, which we know. But like, it was just very refreshing to like see that the entire world was just based on different Asian people. Like
Yeah,
the Fire Nation was like maybe kind of like Japan. Earth Kingdom was like kind of like China. I think the the North and South Pole were like
Inuit.
based on the Inuit, yeah. So they had some native representation in there. And then for the Airbenders, I don't remember, but it was definitely not white. So like that was just cool to see. Like I was, 14, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, I think
and
the
the
airbenders were,
world was
like,
really cool.
Himalayan.
Okay, like Tibetan or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, like, they tried to put in some culture like, some of the cultures and, like, in some of the words that they use in the intro, that was, like some was Chinese, etcetera, and, like, the airbending, firebending technique, some of it's from martial arts, which was cool, and obviously, like, nothing has been made like that before, like, before that time, but at the same time, it was also created by, like, a fully white team,
and the
and
cast was, like, almost completely white.
yeah, all the cast was white and, like, they're making a new one on Netflix, but apparently the original creators, like, left. They left the Netflix team, and I'm, like, worried because I don't know if they are doing that because of, like if they're making it white, I don't know, like, there's just a lot of things that could go wrong, and we're already, like, starved for representation, but we want good representation, like, you can't just, like,
Yeah.
put someone who looks like me on a screen and then just make them, like, a walking stereotype, like, what's the point of that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I wanna see a genuine person who's, like, just a normal, like, average American who just happens to be Asian. Like,
Exactly,
can we have that?
exactly.
But yes, Avatar: The Last Airbender, love that show. We love some Prince Zuko, we already know, but oh my gosh, like you were saying, it is refreshing just to see, like, so many like, it was such a wide variety of
Right,
Asians. Like,
exactly.
so it's not just, like, the stereotypical, like, Chinese family
Yeah,
or,
yeah,
like, I don't know, like, the random Indian character. So,
yeah, who, like, has an accent for some random reason,
yeah,
yeah.
no, the Indian characters always have to have an accent, and that's just rude. That's
I'm so sorry, Karan Bar.
yeah, like Apu on The
Robbie did not deserve that.
Simpsons.
Mhm.
Like,
Baljeet,
he owns a freaking convenience store and has an accent and has, like, 8 kids, and I'm like, "Y'all really had to do all of that?"
yeah, the
Okay.
audacity, yeah.
Mm.
Mm, yeah, so anyways, but
There's
yeah,
just, like, so many
a
problems.
a lot of times, like, when you do have Asian actors too, like, they just get treated so wrong. I was talking about this earlier, well, with you, but Kelly Marie Tran in Star Wars, she she did nothing wrong objectively, like, she was just acting, playing her part in the movie, and
Mhm.
people maybe didn't like her character, but they literally bullied her off of Instagram or something like that because they didn't like what was the point of that?
Yeah, like, I mean, I didn't like the way that they, like, made her storyline go in Star Wars, but I'm not gonna hate on her for that, like, that's not
Exactly.
her
It's not up to her, yeah.
fault.
And then, like, similarly, I think Constance Wu was, like, pushed off of Twitter. I don't remember what it was about, but, like, they just, like maybe she said something vaguely problematic, I don't remember. But, like, just the level of unwarranted hate, like, you guys would never speak to a white actor or actress in that way, you know?
Yeah. Like, not on the same level of disrespect for, like, something so minuscule.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know. It's just so aggravating because I know there are gonna be people listening to this who don't get it, and I just really want y'all to, like, see where we're coming from,
Yeah.
that, like, you really do treat Asian people differently, and if you don't think you treat Asian people differently, sit back, analyze in your head how you are impacted by this conversation, and make some changes, like, that's all we ask. Please,
Yeah, like,
like,
just
ruminate.
think about how you feel about Asian Americans, and there's a lot of different kinds of Asians, obviously, so just, like,
Yeah.
think about your views on them and consider, "Is this view racist?" And if it is, maybe reflect on that, try to
Mhm.
change, maybe, do some research on Google.com, look up some famous Asian Americans in things that you like, I don't know, like, if you're really into politics, maybe, like, research some politicians that are Asian American, see if you support them, etcetera. Just, like, show them support, you know?
Yeah, and it is hard to find those people, so
Exactly. Like,
because
could not name more than 3 Asian
Wait,
Americans in politics.
how many Asian actresses can we name right now? You got Constance
Constance
Wu,
Wu,
Lucy Liu,
Gemma Chan.
Aquafina.
Those are just the women. Who else? Henry Golding, but he's like
Yeah,
British. Is he like? I don't even know what he is, but he's vaguely Asian.
he's vaguely Asian. I think he might be Asian. Let me look this up.
Manny Jacinto from The Good Place. We love him. Jamila, also from The Good Place. But like all these people are already famous. Like you wouldn't be able to find like a new person, you know?
Yeah. Okay, I have found out the verdict on Henry Golding.
Mm,
His mom is East Malaysian and his dad is British. So he is in fact a Asian.
mm.
We support. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like I knew that. But yeah, the fact that we can only name like 5
There's like
actors
10 total.
is
Like I can't
problematic.
and like for Asian American politicians, like besides Kamala Harris, we got what, like Ted Lieu from California. I think he's still in office.
Yeah, I don't even
Nikki
know.
Haley. Nikki Haley's half Asian, right?
Yeah, but the thing, or no, she's not. She's like fully Indian, I
Uh,
think, because both her parents are like at least part Indian. Maybe they're not fully,
okay.
or I believe they're Indian, but she like I'm pretty sure she was born with a different name and she changed her name to
Yeah. And then
like
she'll
she
like go
shortened
and
her
pass
name.
racist policies. And I'm like,
Yeah,
girl,
like her given name is not Nikki Haley for sure.
yeah.
Like that Haley's not her given last name. I'm pretty
Exactly.
positive. But like the fact that she had to change her name in order to get anywhere in politics and like basically absorb white culture to get anywhere in her career is like, do y'all not see that's a problem?
Mm-hmm.
But I
Yeah.
do like she is from the South. She's from South Carolina. So I do like but at least she's like from the South and that the South has like someone like that has not like I don't know what I'm trying to say. Someone of
Mm-hmm.
Asian background in the South is like representing people. I like that because the South is one of the most problematic areas in our country. No offense,
Yeah.
but I live here, so I know. Um, but yeah, it's kind of nice to
Yeah.
know that she comes from like my state because whatever. But also, it's sad that she had to change her entire identity to
Yeah.
do that.
Also, I don't know. I don't think we would agree with most of her views. So maybe not all, any
Yeah,
of them.
I feel like some of them, but not all of them, because she's conservative. So
Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, like that reminds me of like I don't know if you know the actress Chloe Bennett. She was in Agents of Shield, but like her birth name is Chloe Wong because she's half Chinese. But like you were saying, she had to change her name to get roles because they would see her name and be like, oh, well, we don't want like an Asian girl.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just so like the little things, the microaggressions, that's what really gets you because
yeah,
they'll build up and then like you don't even realize that you're affected by it and then like one day you'll be like whoa, wait, hold on a second, like this is an issue, this is a problem. Yeah.
yeah. And it's kind of sad because I have noticed that like I feel like if I was fully Asian, like I would still be treated differently than I am now. Like I don't know, it's
Yeah.
just weird because especially because like my last name, well, my name is Ashley Bauer. And like that's the whitest of the white names. I'm
Yeah, so
sorry.
you have
So
like
like
a bit of white privilege for
yeah,
that.
and like if someone sees that on a resume, they're gonna be like, oh, okay. But like if they see someone that's like obviously got an Asian name, like they might be hesitant about that because they're Asian,
Yeah.
depending on the job. Or like I know for a fact that like people are less likely to call people who have names that sound like they're like black names, like they're less likely to get a job interview, and that's so messed up.
Yeah. Or
But
like
yeah,
just like ethnic names. Like, oh, I can't pronounce it, so like I'm not gonna say it right. You can learn how to pronounce it. I promise you it's
exactly.
not that difficult.
Oh my goodness, like people who there were like a few Indian kids that I went to middle school with, and like one of them, his name was Sanatana, and let me tell you,
Mhm.
this man got bullied so hard for that, and I was like, that's so terrible. And every
Yeah,
time
like he can't
we,
change that. It's his name.
yeah, every time we had like a substitute teacher, they'd be like Santana, and I'm like, it's really not that hard to read his name because it's like I don't know, there's no like weird like pronunciations
Yeah.
happening there. So I don't know why y'all had to make it so complicated, but it's just because it's different and they don't
Yeah.
like that.
Let's see. Other representation. We got To All the Boys We Loved Before. I love that book series. Um, the movies, the first one was cute. I didn't like the second one as much because it was very different. But I
Yeah,
do love Jordan Fisher, so shout out to him.
true. Right. I
Yeah.
support. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. But yeah, when Two Old Boys came out, the first movie, we
Let
watched
me
that
tell
like
you.
every day for a
Yeah.
week.
I'm not even joking when I say that I watched it at least 10 times in that first week. Like, it was my first week of moving into college, and I just watched it every night because I was like, well, I don't have anything else to do. And
Yeah,
it's like a
I
good movie, so yeah.
like sometimes my roommate would be out just like doing whatever, and I'd be like chilling in the dorm just by myself. I'd be kind of scared because it was like dark and creepy, and it was like, "Ooh,"
Yeah.
like, and it wasn't cozy because like it was like tile floors. So just, I don't know, the vibe was not it. But I would just put that on TV and fall asleep.
Yeah.
It was
It's a
great.
good one. A classic. Yeah. Other books. I read a book recently. It's called The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. She is from China, and the book was very well written, but it is very graphic because it's like based on war and ancient Chinese techniques and stuff and all their battles with the surrounding countries. But I was just glad to see like an actual Chinese person writing a story that's based on Chinese history. Like it's really different when you study it. Like, okay, for example, oh my gosh, this is kind of a tangent, but I'm just gonna say it. My freshman year, I took a Chinese philosophy class, and the professor was a white male from Denmark. And I was like, first of all, what is this white man trying to teach me about China? Because I'm literally Chinese. And second of all, like, I feel like it's just kind of weird sometimes when white people study like East Asian studies or like African American studies. Like, obviously, there's nothing wrong with wanting to learn, but like, at some point, it kind of gets creepy. Like, I don't know if you're actually studying it because you're respecting the culture or if like you, I don't know, have some like ulterior
Yeah.
motive. It's just weird. So yeah, this man was talking about how like he just loves East Asian culture and like his wife is Chinese, his kids are all half Chinese, they speak in Chinese at home. And then all the international Chinese students in my class were like, what is going on? Like, why am I being lectured by this white man who like I probably know more than them? And I was like, you probably do. Like, this is like you guys are actually Chinese from China and this man is just trying to teach you something that you already know. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
I mean,
that's just my 2 cents on that.
yeah. I feel like it's not really like a problem for like white people to study like other cultures like that, but I feel like it is kind of strange when someone of a different culture tries to like teach you about your own culture. It's just like strange. Like I
Exactly.
don't think it's inherently wrong per se,
Yeah.
but
But
I can
also
understand
like
why that would be like uncomfortable.
yeah, and just like you being the authority figure when you're literally white is just weird. Like it's just weird to me. Like are you studying this because you genuinely want to know about it or are you just doing it because like you have an Asian fetish or something? Like that's a thing. We hate
Let's get
yellow
into this.
fever.
Let's
Okay,
get
yellow
into
fever.
this.
Yeah, this actually connects.
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley, go
why
off.
why is it a fetish to like Asian women? Like, okay, first of all, I took a whole psychology class on mental disorders. and like behavioral disorders, and like we talked about sexual disorders, specifically like fetishes and stuff like that. It should not be a fetish. I'm gonna repeat, it should not be a fetish to
It should
like
not be a fetish.
to like a certain race of women. That no, no.
Yeah.
Like
No,
if
no, just no.
I can understand if you have like I don't know, like there's a certain like there's people that you're more attracted to and they just happen to be like you just happen to be attracted to Asian people. Like but the second you make it a fetish and like you make it weird that you have to be like degrading Asian women, the
Exactly.
no. No. Also, I okay, this was a problem for me like in high school because anytime these white men would like first of all, these white men probably didn't like me because I was Asian. Be- First problem. Second problem, if any white boy liked me, I'd be like, do you really like me because me or do you have an Asian fetish? Because I need to differentiate. Because if
Yeah.
you have an Asian fetish, I do not want you. You are being creepy. Like, I just don't understand why is it a fetish for people to like Asian women and not like white women? Like, why is that not a fetish to like white women? That doesn't make sense. And it's
Yeah.
really degrading to Asian women. And it's actually really terrible because Asian women are like more likely to experience like human trafficking and sexual assault. Like, I've looked up
Mhm.
some statistics on this. I mean,
Mhm.
it's really a problem. So we need to
Yeah.
address this in our society. Like, what is wrong with y'all? What is
Yeah.
wrong?
And it ties into stereotypes because like they'll just think that Asian women are like more submissive or like they wouldn't like fight you or whatever, and then that just makes it okay.
Yeah, no.
No, it doesn't.
Like, that's just
Mm-mm.
asking for domestic abuse. You
Yeah.
are an abuser, sir. If you
Yeah.
are only attracted to Asian women because you want your like wife or girlfriend to be submissive to you, you're a terrible person. I'm gonna say it right
Yeah.
here, right now. So,
Yeah.
but like that just really angers me.
Yeah. And on the like the other side of that coin is like they'll fetishize Asian women and then they'll like make the Asian men they'll be like, oh, they're weak or like they they don't they're like submissive, like the same thing. And then it's just like, now you're just taking down a whole country. Like first of all, Asia's huge, right?
Yeah.
Continent. And then second of all, like what was the reason for that? Because nobody asked you.
No, I genuinely think that like white Americans were scared of like the power that Asia holds. And so, like, just in general, like Asian countries like China and like obviously like North Korea and like, I don't know, they'd be some
Yeah.
powerhouses over there, not necessarily good ones, but um, I genuinely think that like people making Asian men seem like less manly or whatever
Hmm.
is an attempt to undermine the power of those countries. Like it's a whole political move, and that's like
Honestly, that
become a
makes
part of our
sense.
society because they're like, no,
Yeah.
we're not gonna let you think that these people are powerful. Like we're gonna make America look better than them. So I
Yeah.
think that that's why that's a thing.
Probably. Well, I
Yeah.
think we're coming on close to an hour, but do you have any last points to add? Let's see. I feel like we covered a lot.
Yeah, I think we covered
Um,
all my main points.
yeah. What do you think the future will be like for Asian Americans?
Hopefully, like as representation grows and like people are starting to have these conversations more, hopefully we'll get better representation in coming years in the media and in politics and everything like that. So yeah, I think that's like going to be the major change
Yeah,
coming up.
I think just seeing like just seeing people there is like kind of the impetus. Is that how you say the word? the
I don't know.
drive, the push. It'll inspire more Asian Americans to also like pursue their dreams or whatever. So that is good.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I had
It's
an
all good.
intruder.
But yeah, I think that is all. So I think we can wrap up, right?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If y'all have anything to add or any questions about the Asian American experience, please reach out to us, comment on our
Mhm.
YouTube video, or
Mhm.
um, rate our podcast, leave us a like rating, anything there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. But thank you guys for listening and we will see you guys next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.